Chief and Tim Johnson here can come back up. Everybody still with me? Yes. Do we have any cards or questions floating out there? Yeah. Nothing? Okay, I received one. So I'm gonna dive into that question. I have this sneaky suspicion it came from one of my colleagues at Teaneck Law School, but it's okay.
I guess it's understood that we all know that it's more than just color that's provided.
Yes.
So we're just not looking at that tonight. We're not looking at the what's it called, the job. We're not looking at that. We're not looking at the yarmulke. We're not looking at those things. We're just looking at color, because we are a diverse community. We have many, many more than just black people that have to try to fit in and be respected. And at the same time, it seems to me we have many, many more white officers. So they have to know about and accept all these different bias things. So we're just discussing.
Everyone in the room could at least recognize how they can have some ownership in it, right? But let me take it from a personal standpoint. Why is it that when I'm out driving as a black man in my car, when I pass a police officer, does my heart skip a beat? Right? I mean, let me ask the question, right? Not that I'm speeding, not that I changed lanes without signaling, it's not that I've done anything wrong, but something in me says it skips a beat, right? And does it stem from an interaction that I had, or fear that I just don't want to come to fruition, right? That I don't want to realize. And that is the implicit bias that I have, right? That comes from the talk that I got as a young man from my single mother, who said, when you go out and you're in the department store, don't touch any type of accusation of profile. That goes a lot to what you said a bit earlier about someone in a white person not wanting to do or say something that can be perceived as being racist, right? But what the chief just articulated was, I got accused of it. The only way I can overcome it is to have to do a citation. And I will say, just to be fair, I have also been in situations, and I hope the people in this room have been in situations, where you've been pulled over by the police and you got a warning. Right? Now, the hard question, not for the chief, for President Curitan of the NAACP, and I'm gonna ask you to put on that hat for a second. The hard question is, why are we, and I say we, our cultural community, the African American community, from your perspective, why is it that we have a short memory when it comes to those occurrences where we might get that warning? And we linger and harbor on to those instances where we got the citation, or where we had that negative interaction.
Looking through the room with the exception of the couple. Looking through the room with the exception of a couple, I'll use the analogy of the state police in the latter part of the 80s and 90s, where the state police was stopping minorities in numbers, blacks specifically. So even though in your question, even though there had been a warning, every stop would look like I was stopping because I was black. So you get conditioned in mind, and I don't care what it is, like you said, if it's just my light skin now, you're going to think that you're stopping because I'm black because of that historical aspect. State police have imprinted a lot, and I think everybody's mind in here for the most part, I think, around. I mean, how many of y'all feel comfortable driving down the turnpike now? Feel comfortable driving down the turnpike when you see a state police car? That's when. Yeah, you get conditioning in mind.
Lord, please. You gotta speak up though. I know you're in the Army.
That's right. Not a Marine like you. have a police chief here, a former police officer here, and myself, right? Let's look back in history. Okay? Let's look back in history.
Put you on the clock.
Okay, well, that's
You got 90
if
seconds.
you talk to the police officers in the northern city, let's say Cresskill and Hocus and Alpine and Tenafly, was it their mission, part of their job as police officers to stop minorities when they were right to their town?
Back in the 90s.
Absolutely. Right? It was. If you're a minority riding through a small town in North Bergen County, if you're a black or Latino, you got stopped, more than likely. Because that was their mission. Why? Because the police chief said it was their mission. And who told the police chief to do that? The mayor and council. And that is what we're dealing with here in Bergen County. Now, we've come a long way since those days, we hope. But we have to talk about history. That is how we got here. That's how we got where we are today. Because of the history here. And you grew up in Mawa and Allendale and Rockley and Northvale. And if you're a minority riding through those towns back in the 80s, 70s, Westwood to an extent, because Westwood had a black community, so it wasn't so bad. But you'll probably get stopped if you're riding through those towns, if the cop happens to see you. Because he could stop you. And that's what has to be changed.
So
In my opinion.
I want to stop for one second. I want everyone to think about this question. The chief is coming your way. And I've got 5 cards lined up here that all ask the same question in a slightly different way. How does the breakdown in the Teaneck Police Department, officers and leadership compare to the township as a whole? What is the racial makeup of the Teaneck Police Department? How many black officers, white officers, et cetera, in Teaneck? What is the ethnic makeup of the Teaneck Police Department? We got them all.
Okay. Our police department was more diverse, I would say, probably a year ago. We had some issues where we lost a number of officers to another jurisdiction. They transferred to go actually to Fort Lee. We had 2 black officers, 2 Hispanic officers to go to Fort Lee. We just recently had a juvenile bureau lieutenant, Thornton, just retired. She was a black female also. You know, this is a question that comes up all the time. So our diversity was in the department changes, but I just want you to understand something with regards to how that works in Teaneck. Teaneck is a civil service. Now, for those of you that don't understand what civil services is that we have to go by the state's requirements and guidelines and so forth with regards to hiring, with regards to promotions, and it requires tests and all kinds of other things. So, for example, if somebody wanted to be a police officer in Teaneck, let's say I had a 20-year-old black male come into my office and turn around and say, I want to be a Teaneck police officer. And, you know, he was more than qualified. I can't hire him. He has to go down to the state and take a civil service exam. He has to come out high enough on that exam to be on the list when we call for the list to hire him. Then he also has to be a resident of the township of Teaneck because we have a residency requirement. And he has to pass all background investigations. And then in the end, we'll go through a oral interview with our command staff, which consists of 7 of the high-ranking officers within the department. Basically, the same exact thing happens with promotions. You, as an officer, once you have 3 years of experience, you can go down to civil service and take a promotional exam, sergeant's exam. It's the same thing. You have to come out high enough on that list so that when we want to promote somebody, we're allowed to take one of the top 3 candidates in that list. And that's basically our who we hire. So the diversity is very difficult for us to achieve because we have to have more minorities joining the police department, taking the tests to become police officers. And if you know anybody that's interested, tell them to go onto the civil service website because there's a closing date of September 1st for the next exam. Okay, there are also study groups which they can attend to help them do better on exams.
Chief, just really quickly, and I'm going to take a moment of privilege here because you and I have had conversations about the way we recruit police officers in town. And for those of you who don't know, it is a very, very long pipeline from the moment that you apply to the moment that you're actually on the road by yourself. And I've made the point, and the council's own has it as well, to try to look at different ways for us to diversify our police department. And you didn't actually say the breakdown was, by the way, but that's
Like I said, it can change. When we lose one person, the percentages all change.
But predominantly, the majority of police officers in Teaneck, from, let's say, keep us like a ballpark, 50, 60, 70% are white, 10% are African American.
You're talking overall department?
Let's say before you lost those officers last year because of the slow wheels of contract negotiations, what was the?
I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe that it was 17% black and 22% Hispanic.
Okay, and the remainder white. Okay, so about 60% of the force before losing officers was white. For those of us who go to Teaneck, we know that that does not mirror the breakdown in town, right? But let me just go back for a second. The chief said that they lost officers through intergovernmental transfers. To the best of my knowledge, we have never picked up an officer doing an intergovernmental transfer. Am I correct in that?
I believe we had one,
Oh, in the history. So one, maybe two. So we lost at one point in time 4 or 5 officers, officers of color, officers that helped diversify our police department because of bureaucratic stuff that we have to do better as elected officials, or to ensure that our managers are speeding up contract negotiations or labor attorneys that you all paid through the nose for $1.1 million. We're going to talk about that tonight. But we're not leveraging the mechanism that's taking away our diversity to bring diversity in. And I want to know, is there anything that you as the chief of police can do about that to leverage the government transfer? Or is that a policy decision that you make?
Well, there are numerous concerns with intergovernmental transfers. Like I said, our process of trying to vet people for becoming police officers is, it's really a strict policy that we have, that we do not want to hire somebody that we think could be a problem for the community or the department, because they're ours for 25 years. Generally, when somebody's leaving a department, it's because they're having issues with that department. Whether, they've been brought up on charges. As you know, we're currently short-handed, and we have advertised for intergovernmental transfers. One of the first things I do when I get an applicant for an intergovernmental transfer is I Google it. And one of the ones that we had gotten was an officer, I don't know how many accounts, we had gotten one from an officer, he had 6 years experience, Googled his name, and it turns out that the officer made a false arrest and put in the town $1 million. I
You don't want
not
that.
hiring.
Yeah.
I think the township of Teaneck, I believe that the township of Teaneck deserves the best officers and the best quality officers that they can have. And that's my job, is to give them. So when we go with intergovernmental transfers, there's no probationary period. If I hire somebody off the civil
service list, they have to go through a 1-year probationary period, at which point they have no job rights, and if they're not satisfactory, you can get rid of them. If I do an intergovernmental transfer, they're out. That's it.
I'm going to ask one question.
Yes, please.
Is anyone looking into, and I guess Senator Johnson, is anyone looking into the civil service system to see that that needs to be changed if it's causing?
Are we looking into making changes to the service? The answer is yes. There have been several meetings and discussions about changing how civil service selects, and also the whole system needs to be looked at again. So the answer to that is yes.
What can we as citizens do to speed that on?
Give me a call. Yes, I'm serious. Call Lexington, call him, and we'll pass that on. But it is being looked at.
So we're gonna, so I'm not gonna let them off the hook because you just told them, so you,
Okay.
that's it, yeah. You saved your call. You saved your call.
Exactly.
All right.
So what I will do, we can offline, I will get your information, I will let you know what's going on with that. That's the concern, of course. This is the legal work we are. You go ahead.
I just like to say on that.
Sure.
And, just so you're aware also, yes, civil service is absolutely looking at that. In fact, when I first made police chief, I promoted 2 African females and 1 Hispanic female. The reason I was able to do that was because there was a lawsuit filed against civil service exams for the promotion of the position of sergeant. Okay, as a result of that lawsuit filed, civil service entered into a consent decree. And they gave certain individuals that took a test between a certain time frame priority. So they moved to the top of the list, and towns, certain towns that were affected, Teaneck being one of them, were required to promote these individuals first before reverting back to the list. So civil service is doing things.